Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Women Who Wow webinar with Eva Wisnik on how to make time for your well-being. I'm so excited to have Eva here with us today. Thank you guys for joining us. This video, this webinar is being recorded. So if you registered and you didn't get a chance to attend today, I know it's a busy time of year in the summer with kids going back to school, etc. Don't worry, I will send out a recording of this. So I'm going to get into this. We're going to get into Eva in a second. Was just commenting how much I love her headshot. Here's another one, Eva. This must also be from that same photo shoot. So Eva was in the Women Who Wow series, which is something I started during the pandemic. I've got, I don't know, almost 100 women in the series. If any of you have not been profiled yet and you're interested in being profiled, do let me know. I will put a link to Eva's profile in the chat, as well as a link to Eva's LinkedIn profile. You should follow her there. I'm going to ask Eva to tell us about herself in a minute. And I just want to remind everyone, so I switched the date of the webinar that I was going to do on Wednesday to the 24th. So it's next week now. I'm trying to take off actually a few days. So I decided to actually do something for my well-being, Eva. So I'm just taking off a few days. So I am doing this webinar next Tuesday at 12:30. So it just, what should you do this summer and fall to build your business and brand? It's for people at any level. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing. Before you share your slides, Eva, will you tell us about you for those who don't know you?
Absolutely. Well, first of all, I've known Stefanie for over 20 years. I met her when she had just graduated from NYU, maybe a year or two out. And I'm thrilled to be here, Stefanie. I think what you're providing right now is so needed and inspiring, and I am just so thrilled to be here.
I'm so glad. We're going to have Eva back, by the way. This is not her only webinar with Women Who Wow, just so you know. I'm a huge fan of yours. And again, I can't believe it's been 20 years, Eva. Oh my God.
It has been. So 25 years ago, I started Wisnik Enterprises. We've placed over 1,000 marketing, business development, recruiting, professional development, practice management professionals into law firms, mostly a little bit of consulting and financial services. I also do a lot of training programs. Jean Marie, I just saw her pop up, and she was one of my placements, oh my gosh, 22, 23 years ago. Anyway, so I do that, and I do a lot of training programs. You know, at the end of the day, I would say what I feel like my mission is to meet the needs of others. And I know it sounds kind of general, but as our world keeps changing, as we need different skills, or people need talent, or people need new jobs. That's, you know, I'm always about like, where's the need and how can I serve? So one thing I just want to mention, in case it's of interest to anybody on our webinar today, or even their kids or nieces or nephews or others in their lives, I did write a book during the pandemic when I realized we were going to be home for more than just a few weeks, and things actually were a lot slower last summer, definitely compared to this summer where we have 30 plus jobs at any given time. I wrote a book called Your Fairy Job Mentor's Secrets to Success. It was aimed at Gen Zs, 19 to 25-year-olds. And it's everything I've seen and learned over the years in terms of how you manage your career and how you not only are successful, but fulfilled. And part of that is well-being. And well-being became something that was really a passion project of mine that started right at the beginning of COVID. I actually went through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition's health coaching program. I started in October of 2019, did my first presentation on well-being in January of 2020, and all of a sudden it became an incredible need. So that's what I'm going to talk about today, is both the well-being, and as you know, I think you've been in one of my programs, the time management, which I would say I'm in some ways known for. I've done time management since the very beginning, done it for 7,500 attorneys and law firms, presented on time management skills. And this is a blend. And at the end of the day, and we'll jump right into the PowerPoint in a few moments, what I want to make sure we all do as we're trying to return to normal, not exactly sure when that's exactly going to happen, but how do we make sure that we are taking care of ourselves? This is not an option anymore. This is not a luxury. It's a must. If we don't take care of our own well-being and make time for that every day, we're not able to serve others, to be there for our family, for our clients, for our team members. And that's what I really wanted to blend together, is a program that talks about the how-tos, actionable steps for maintaining your well-being, and then making sure we have the skills and the time to be able to take care of ourselves.
It's awesome. I'm so excited. I mean, I think all of our well-being has maybe fallen either by the wayside or just not been normal, because nothing has been normal over the last 18 months. I know I'm working more than I've ever worked before. I'm more isolated because I work from home now. And, our whole routine has been shifted. And every part of my life has been thrown up in the air, right? And I know I'm not the only one. So I think, and as an extrovert, it's been really difficult for me. I know introverts are having trouble as well, and now with the Delta variant and whatever else is coming, I think there's also, fear, which permeates everything we're doing. And, I hear there were a lot of people gung ho about going back to conferences, and now they're sort of pulling back. And so we will still be doing these webinars, and we will still be close to home. And so I think, Eva, we've never needed well-being more than we do now. And we have changed so much over the pandemic. So I am excited to hear.
Awesome. Well,
let's dive right in.
I'm going to dive right in there. Just give me one quick second. I want to put up the PowerPoint and get right in there. It's staying on for one.
Yeah, and I will just say while Eva's doing that, if anyone has any questions, just put them in the chat. We'll get to the questions at the end, and we will also do a follow-up piece on the program for anything that we don't get to.
Yes, we really welcome your questions, so just pop them in there. Okay, so told you about myself. This is the outline for the program. It's very tools oriented. So what I encourage you to do, if you have your phone out there, handy, which most of us do at all times, pull up a notes section, a blank thing, and write down what a good takeaway is for you. Because for me, the only training I think I find valuable is where you can actually walk away and use things. These are not theoretical ideas. And I actually believe whether it's well-being or time management or the combination of, we all need different things at different times. So take what works for you. If I say something and you say, I've got that, check it off in your head. And if it's something you're not ready to deal with or it's not going to be helpful right now, just ignore it. You can walk away with 2 or 3 takeaways from today, then I'll feel like our time together has been incredibly well spent. So first thing I want to start with, and it's, Stefanie, you were just saying this. So I have come to believe that all this uncertainty, which is not ending even now, 18 months later, is what is exhausting. I sometimes say there's like a suck in the universe. Even if you've been fortunate and you're healthy, your family's healthy, you're employed, your life circumstances have not changed drastically other than having to live under the whole COVID fear, we all have been drained by this. So what I want you to think about for a quick second is, what do I have control over? And I do believe we have control over certain practices, rituals, being conscious of what we need, whether it's, and I'll go through a lot of this, exercise, time with people, creativity, and how can we put that in our lives? So just think about it. What do I have control over? There's a lot we don't have control over, but what do I have control over? Along with that, I recently read something and it was startling to me, but the studies show that we spend 48% of our time thinking, worrying about the past or the future, like reliving the past, or what I call future tripping. So one thing that I have found to be really helpful, I know it's, the core of mindfulness, is to say, how am I today? Is everything okay today? Kind of bring it back to the present and center yourself in that. What do I have control over at this moment? And what can I do? And again, maybe extrapolating that into your own well-being and filling your own tank so that you can be there for other people and making sure that you don't get depleted, because then we're not good to anybody. So what do we have control over? I think it's just a really important thing to think about. Along with that, one of the things I want to suggest to you is that if you already have them, awesome, stay with them. If you don't have them, and sometimes we have them and then we lose them because things get too busy. We go on vacation, we come back and we're so busy trying to catch up on things. But having some rituals to launch your day, rituals. Stefanie mentioned, we used to have like a schedule, and we woke up, we had breakfast, we got on the train or the bus, or we walked. I think we need those even more when our lives are sort of up in the air and we're in transition as we have been for the last 18 months. So a couple of ideas for you. This is what I actually do is I'll get my first cup of coffee. I'll sit down someplace. Today was on the porch. Sometimes it's in my house in this very comfy chair I have, and I'll write my intentions for the day. What am I grateful for? What's my intention? What will make this a good day? And in there, I actually say, what will I do for myself today? That could be making a green smoothie at 11 o'clock. It could be taking the dog for a walk after my Zoom training. It could be, taking a class online. It could be preparing a really good meal or having a conversation with someone who always makes me feel great or reading a book. But what will I do in the course of the day to show care for myself? And this, again, is not a luxury or an extra. It's actually a must. So writing out intentions, exercise, movement, could be a walk, could be a jog, could be a stretch. And it's interesting. I have spent probably the thing that's changed most in my own personal life in the last 18 months is I've spent a lot more time in nature almost daily. It could be the woods by my house. It could be being by the ocean. And the studies actually show that even if it's walking down a block with trees or looking at some flowers in a flower shop or, walking to Central Park or whatever park might be near you, there's something about being near nature that detoxifies our brain. So thinking about what can I do to start my day off? And I highly, highly recommend some form of gratitude practice. And I'll talk about that a bit. What I do is I'll sit there and I'll say, who in my life do I think needs an extra thank you for something they've done that I want to show them gratitude for, or maybe they're going through something difficult. And I'll send a text that will say, thinking of you, and some message there. The reason that gratitude is so powerful, especially again during these uncertain times, is because gratitude and fear cannot coexist. That anxiety that comes on to almost all of us at different times, that fear, where are things going to be? Are they going to get better? Are my kids going to be able to have classes again? Am I going to be able to go back to work? It's all really fear. And you cannot be grateful and fearful at the same time. So that's the antidote. So I highly recommend that if you ever feel that way, or even preempt it and put out the gratitude, put yourself in a great state and set yourself up for a really successful day. So thinking about what would I need? I'm not saying you have to do all these things. What do I need to add, or what do I need to absolutely commit to because it is helping me to launch my day right? Next, I have some tools. So I would say in all the training I've done over the years, when I say to people, what's the hardest part of your job? 99% of the time, they tend to say certain people that they're working with at that moment, their boss, but usually the things that are most difficult are other people's work styles and how they might clash with yours or depending on other people. So my point here is this, that if you can, especially again, everybody's walking around pretty anxious and hasn't been subsiding for a long time, at least be aware of what's your energy and what's their energy. So if you are on a call with somebody professionally and they sound like they're getting really agitated or they're being difficult to work with, when you hang up the phone, just sort of say, this is my energy, that's their energy. For me, it could be family members that kind of want to enmesh with me and bring me down. I've heard some comments, whether it was political comments during the last year or COVID-related comments that have really sort of clashed with what I believe. And I have to make sure I'm saying, like, I love you, I respect you, but that's your energy. It's not my energy, and not get triggered by it. Do we have control over this all the time? No. Do we have more control than we think we do? Yes. The other one, I started using this even when I was commuting from Manhattan. My office is on Park and 40th, right across from Grand Central to Westchester. I heard about this years ago. It's called the sponge technique. And what I do is if I've had a very difficult call, let's say I had to tell somebody that they didn't get an offer that they were really excited about and they invested a lot of time and energy, and I have to make that difficult call. And I hang up, and I kind of, some of their energy and their disappointment has kind of seeped into me because I'm human. I'll take a moment, I'll take an imaginary sponge and I'll sponge it out. And maybe I'll go to the restroom and get a glass of water and come back. Getting rid of energy that's not serving you is something we sometimes have control over. I used to do this on the train ride home so I could leave all the energy, even great things. 3 people got offers, I got booked for 2 training programs. But there was a frenzy to the day too. And I wanted to leave that behind so that when I walked in the house, I could be present with my family and take care of myself for the next rest of the day using this imaginary sponge technique. It sounds a little silly, but making sure you're really watching other people's energy around you and clearing yourself of energy that is no longer serving you. Those are some tools for managing your mind. And I believe they're things we do have control over. So I'm going to give you some time management tools. And the reason I'm focusing on time management is not to stress you out and say you have to be even busier and more productive than you already are. I know we're all working at over 100% capacity. The reason I want to give you some time management tools is because I want you to be able to make sure you have the time and create the time to take care of yourself and your well-being, because that's not just urgent, it's super important. So to start with, and if you want to take a screenshot of this, please do. It's a time management audit where I want you to take a look at, like, what does my life look like now? We all get 168 hours a week. I get that, Stephanie gets that, Jean Marie gets that, everybody in this call gets the same amount of time. So the question is, where are you spending time? You know, your average work week, how many hours is that? As we add back commuting back up in the fall, hopefully we'll be able to start to return to office, doing chores, cooking, watching TV, self-care habits. Have you allotted, or do you have sort of a budget for that? Is it an hour a day? Is it 6 hours a week? Worrying about things? Are we spending more time on that than we're even conscious of? And maybe that's something we want to decrease. Sleeping, maybe you want to increase that. And then you look at, what would I ideally like to spend my time, and what do I want to shift around? If you look at this and you find that you're actually watching more TV than you intend to, it's 10 hours a week, maybe you want to take 2 of those hours and shift them into self-care. If we measure things, we can make much better decisions. And again, it's something we do have control over. So I like the idea of this audit. I've been using something like this for years, but I think it's so good to use it now, especially if we're transitioning back to the office, or we want to make some major changes because something is no longer serving you. So thinking about that. So I think, Stephanie, I believe most of your women who wow, I know you have some male members, but I believe most of your members are women. Is that correct? Somewhat?
Yes. Yes.
Awesome. So I'm going to just throw this in, any emails online, you could tell us what you think of this. But one of the things I have found, I've been married actually for 31 years to a lawyer. We shared office space for 24 years. In the last year and a half, I have not been in the office, and he has been in the office. So it's interesting. It's the first time we're not working together in 24 years, which is probably the opposite of what many other couples are doing. So anyway, using your resources, I find that a lot of times we don't stop and say, who else can be of help to me? Are there any resources? Can I reach out to somebody? And I have definitely found, I've studied with a woman named Allison Armstrong. I've done almost all her trainings. She has studied men and how to really understand how men are not just hairy women, is one of her lines, and be able to work with them. And it has been incredibly helpful in my life. I've shared all of it with my daughter, who's 21, and she says it's been very helpful in her relationships too. But here's the point. If you ask a man, in most cases, can you help me with this? This is what I need, and this is why I need it. Rather than maybe hoping, wishing that they're going to read your mind, your chances of getting help increase dramatically. Men are wired differently than women. Men tend to be single focused. Women tend to have more diffuse focus because we have to make sure, like, the kids are okay, the berries are picked, our brains were wired differently. That's why we tend to be very good at multitasking. I just find if I look my husband in the eye and say, can you please help me with this? This is really important, or I can't do this by myself. It is amazing the reaction I get, where it only took me 25 plus years to figure that one out, where I used to just get upset and get frustrated because he didn't read my mind and know that the garbage needs to get taken out or whatever it is. I think the other thing I want you to think about, because we have so much going on right now and so much emotional energy being spent on all the uncertainty, is how can we dump some of the unrealistic expectations and definitely the guilt, We do the best we can every single day, and so does everybody else around us. So just kind of, when you're being really hard on yourself, when you hear that inner critic going off in your head, and I wrote a whole chapter on that in the book, being able to manage that. Those are things we have control over. Being aware of that voice and saying, you know what, I'm just not interested in what you have to say. Just get lost. I don't need that inner critic to get off, to go off. The other thing, the line I like to use, and again, I wrote about this in the book, is vulnerability is actually a superpower. When we ask for help, when we say, I'm having a difficult time, can you help me out? You've been through this before. How are you doing? Vulnerability is a superpower. It's not a weakness. It's actually a superpower. And it can serve us so well, especially during these uncertain times. So I just want to suggest that to you. Progress over perfection. I would tell you that the thing I have loved the most about the work I've been able to do for the 30 plus years, first as a recruiter inside of law firms, and now as a recruiter and trainer for law firms and other companies, is work with incredibly smart, ambitious, achievers, driven people. I love that. I learn from them every single day. But one of the things I have definitely witnessed is so many people, especially for those of you online who are in the legal field, in the big law field, as Stephanie and I are, there's such a tendency towards perfectionism, and perfectionism is not sustainable. And I really want, if you tend to be a perfectionist, I want you to think about this line: progress over perfection. That does not mean that you settle your standards. That does not mean you submit subpar work. It means that you're not always aiming for a 10. You're aiming to do the best under the circumstances, with the resources allotted and the time allotted. So please just be aware of that, because I find a lot of us in our profession tend to have a tendency towards perfectionism, and it does nothing but drain us and makes us feel like, it's where imposter syndrome, it triggers imposter syndrome and other things. So focusing on progress and moving a step at a time and doing the best we can. You know what I say to myself every day? I'm a work in progress. I'm a work in progress. Some days I get it better than others, but there's never a day I wake up where I've got, the greatest relationship with my husband. All my clients are just amazing and saying thank you. I could see the future, and my business is going to be double what it is, and my kids are all fantastic, and I've exercised and eaten all the right food. That day has never occurred. It's always a work in progress. So let me share this with you. It's a very specific tool here, and we only have a few more slides left, but I want to share this with you. This is the core of my time management training. It's a slide from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. I was certified in their time management program in 1993, I believe. So basically, all the time we spend at work, I would say at life, will fall into one of these 4 quadrants. Quadrant 1, which is the upper left hand corner, is pretty clear. It's urgent and it's important. It's that work crises. You logged on Monday morning, and whoever you're working with before says, drop everything. We have to deal with this. It's deadline driven, very clear, a priority, right? Right below that, we have quadrant 3, and those are things that are urgent but not important. Those are all the reactive things. You're putting a budget together, you're drafting something, you're solving an important problem, all of a sudden email pops up, disrupts you, and you get kind of, go off on a tangent, and it's hard to come back to that. Most of us spend the majority of our day, I would guess even 80% of our day, on those reactive things that are urgent but not important, right? To the right of that are things that are not urgent and not important. And I'm going to say that in all the trainings I've done since March of 2020, I'm hearing this from lawyers, non-lawyers, and everybody else, that there are more distractions. Sometimes I'm living at home. Every time I go get a glass of water, I can throw the laundry, and I could, get distracted with folding things or making the bed or anything, because there's more things going on, more distractions. The biggest distraction I believe we all have, which we have control over, are self-interruptions. Self-interruptions. How many times have you been in the middle of something and you're in flow, you're concentrating, you're focusing, all of a sudden you think, I gotta see what happened. I never heard back from Joe, or I should make reservations for dinner Saturday night. That restaurant always books up, or all those other things. Self-interruptions are amongst the biggest distractions, right? So those are the 3 quadrants. But here's the nugget. Here's like the thing that if we could start doing this, we're gonna A, feel much more in control of our lives, and B, we're gonna get the most important things done, not just the urgent or the distractions. So in quadrant 2, upper right-hand corner, under proactive activities, Those are the actions on the long-term projects. Those are the investment activities where you reach out to your resources and maybe put a spreadsheet together or a checklist together. All the relationship building that if you're a marketer on this phone, you know this is what you're trying to get your lawyers to do to build their business. Planning for the long term and well-being activities. There will never be a moment where it is the most urgent thing to do, but it is definitely the most important thing to do. So what I'm saying to you here is that if you look at these 4 quadrants, I want you to aim. It's going to be really hard on certain days, a little bit easier on other days, to spend 20% of your day minimum in that quadrant 2. The planning, the well-being activities, actions on long-term projects, the investment activities. First, you want to start identifying what some of those look like for you. And then you want to say, am I spending time there? And you're going to have to force it, squish it in there in 15-minute chunks. But if you can get to 20% of your day, oh my gosh, you're going to feel so much, you're not going to feel drained at the end of each day. You're going to feel like, all right, I didn't get everything done, but I did the most important things and I took care of myself and my well-being, and I'm not depleted. I've got energy and I can really show up in the way I want to at work, at home, and everywhere else. So please think about it. It's not easy to do, but we have control over those things. For me, I do those things first thing in the morning. When I wrote the book, in 5 months, I wrote the book. I got up at 7, by 7:30 to 9, before the phone started ringing and emails started coming in, I wrote an hour and a half every morning for 5 months, and I got it done because I knew it was the most important, if not urgent thing to do. Please think about that. Even if you chunk it into 20-minute cycles. And I want us to think about this when we do return back to the office. What can I do? Maybe it's a 20-minute walk around the block that's going to revive me, recharge me, give me the energy back, and the things that otherwise we get sucked up. I think I just saw Stephanie say we get hijacked and we spent all our time in the other things. That's why we're burnt out. That's why we're exhausted. Not the only reason, but a big reason. So action plan. So here, if anybody wants us, just email me at eva@wisnik.com. I'll send you a copy of it, eva@wisnik.com. Intentionally, a daily action plan, if you like writing things down, or you can use this kind of, as a thought process. What are the 4 most important things I need to get done today? Not 20, not 15, not even 10, because that's not possible. But if one of those things can be a well-being activity for you, whatever that looks like, movement, a walk in nature, going into a flower shop and looking at beautiful flowers, whatever revives you, talking to somebody that you really always feel great when you have a conversation with them, spending half an hour with a book that you love reading or inspirational things. And then the other things that we must get done because they're really, really important. So I want you to think about, if you don't like this is too much writing for you, you can put a little sticky and keep going back and plan some of those well-being activities the same way you would plan a meeting with the most important person that you work with. And remember, you probably have more control of the early part of your day. Here's a tool I want to share with you. And again, if you're interested in having a copy of this, just email eva@wisnik.com. So parking lot. Remember I said to you, and I'm sure it's happened to all of us, you're in the middle of something, you're writing, you're drafting, you're doing the most important work that you could be doing. And all of a sudden your brain starts thinking of 5 different things you should be doing. What I suggest is you put a sheet of paper, you can write parking lot at the very top of it. I do it in my phone. I keep my phone out and I just jot things down as they come to me, but I do not stop to do them because I know if I stop to do them, I will get sucked into this other space, right? So parking lot is where you jot down the things that you got to get done when you finish that important thing, but you don't stop and do it because it'll be so hard to focus back. I created this when my now 28-year-old was about 10 and he kept distracting himself while he was doing homework. Took out a yellow pad or a parking lot at the top of it and said, David, every time you think about all the things you'd rather be doing, jot them down. And as soon as you get your work done, you can go off and do them. So think about maybe using something like a parking lot so you don't get stressed that you're going to forget things, but you can allow yourself to be focused and be present with what you're doing. We are having such a hard time being present today with anything because our brains are being hijacked so frequently. Prioritization, what's the priority? Do the worst things first. The things we're not doing are still taking up a ton of time and energy. So if you have to call somebody and tell them something they don't want to hear, if you have to deal with a difficult person, if you have to, whatever it might be, do the worst things first. One of my last concepts, so I mentioned earlier in my introduction, I went through the 11-month training. It was all online. It was 5 hours a week to become certified as a health coach. And this is one of the concepts from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition that I absolutely love and want to share with you. So this is my own personal thing, but I do not like the term work-life balance. I think it's a misnomer and everybody feels like they're failing all the time. I do not use that vocabulary at all. But I like this concept, which is that our primary food is the balance of our work, our relationships, our physical activity, movement, and our spirituality, however you connect to the universe and to a higher power. So what I do now is if I'm feeling off, I wake up and I'm like, oh, I just don't feel right. Something's missing, something's off. Instead of putting food in my mouth, which is the secondary food, or maybe having a glass or two of wine at the end of the day, I say, what's missing? What do I need to feed myself? Do I need to connect with somebody? Do I need to move my body? Do I need to read something that gives me hope, that inspires me? And looking at that model as opposed to our traditional work-life balance, I just find that it's very practical. And I was just thrilled to learn it. And I wanted to share it with all of you. What's your primary food? And are you feeding yourself the right balance? And again, this is vital. This is like life food. We have to have what we need to be able to sustain us and help us thrive in the way that we all want to. Evening rituals, last thought here. How you end the day, how you close up the day so that you can get a great night's sleep, which is something we're all in need of. Recalling what went well today. You know what? It was a difficult day. There were things that didn't go as I had hoped, but what did go well? What did go well today? When I was commuting into the city, and I would cross 42nd Street coming out of Grand Central, every time I would walk out and the light was green, just as I walked out of the terminal, I would say, miracle, something went right today. Like train yourself to see all the things that do go right, even while we're still in a pandemic time. What went well? Turning off electronics 30 minutes before you go to bed so your brain can relax, those blue waves aren't coming at you. I still struggle with this. I still look at my phone probably right before I turn the lights off. Reading something enjoyable for pleasure. And for me, I gave up TV a really long time ago. I do not watch TV. I cannot handle the images, and I definitely couldn't handle them right before I go to sleep. So maybe creating again some evening rituals to help you ease out of the day, set yourself for a great night's sleep, and actually to even recognize all the things that might have gone right that day. So those are the things. So my bottom line is you can't pour from an empty cup. No guilt here. This is a requirement. We have to fill ourselves up first. And the more filled up you are with whatever it is that you need well-being wise, the more you're going to have to give to others. And I know we're all there to make sure everybody else is good and gets what they need. But first, we need to make sure that we do. So if there are 3 actions that you want to take away, 3 things you want to do because of what you heard today, or even 3 things you want to continue to do, I'd love for you to jot them down and to share them with us. So I'm going to come off the screen, and then please connect with us. So the book is Your Fairy Job Mentor, Secrets to Success. It's on Amazon, ebook, hard copy. Audible is going to come out later this year. The website, wisnik.com, is where we have all the training programs, the jobs, and the new brand that I launched, yourfairyjobmentor.com, is specifically geared towards young professionals. It's my passion project. I want them to lead the most empowered lives. And I actually feel really bad that they've had to grow up right underneath this. That's where that comes from. And then please link with me as Stefanie suggested, and love to stay in touch. So I'm going to come off this screen share, and I would love to, Stefanie always does an amazing job interviewing me and commenting on things, and any questions we have or comments, I'd love to hear from our audience. You're muted. I'm sorry. Stephanie, I can't hear you.
I know. It's very rare that I'm ever muted. So I love that. Okay. So I love and a couple of people have said this in the Q&A, that they like the parking lot concept. And I think that it's really smart because your day can get hijacked. And that is truly what happens to me. So, okay, here's a question for you, Eva. So do the worst first. I am the worst procrastinator, and I procrastinate on things I don't want to do. I do the things I want to do, and sometimes they're not the most, not that they're not the most important, but I avoid doing things I don't want to do. It has been a problem my entire career. My mentor, who was my former boss, Wendy, will say to me, this is how you get in your own way. So if you are having trouble, and part of it is being overwhelmed, like not knowing where to start and feeling like, oh my God, I have so much on my plate. And then when you try to tackle something, you don't want to tackle the worst stuff. You want to tackle the good stuff. Yep. So do you have any advice for people who just feel overwhelmed and then also are procrastinators when it comes to this? Because I think that affects so many of us, but it also like undermines our success, and it doesn't make sense with who I am as a type A personality at all, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know what I think it is? I mean, you could tell me I watch this with my oldest son, who's a writer, and he would wait, and then all of a sudden start writing at 2 in the morning. I think a lot of procrastinators are actually perfectionists. I think you're a perfectionist.
Yeah, I think so.
Until you have that moment of like, I know exactly what I'm going to write and exactly what's going to happen. So what I suggest is 2 things. One is maybe do something that makes you feel really good first. Like if you can get a momentary endorphin, be like, I got something, I was not a pure task, but something done. And then say to yourself, I don't have to write this entire article. I don't need to work through the whole budget. I'm just going to write down like a list of things I need to do. Because oftentimes what I find, even myself, is if something's overwhelming or unclear to me, first thing I think is tomorrow will be a much better day to start that. Tomorrow, later. It's going to be easier later. But if I stop and say, okay, give yourself a break. You only have 20 minutes. Just write an outline, write the first sentence, write the title. And all of a sudden, when you take the pressure off, it starts to flow, right? So I think that's the way to do it, is to kind of just, say, I don't need to finish the entire thing. I also do this little silly thing where I reward myself. So what I'll do is if I sit and go through something that's a little bit difficult, maybe writing is always, challenging in itself. So I'm going to sit down and write this blog for Wisnik Weekly, but I'm not allowed to get up until I finish this, and then I can get that second cup of coffee, or then I can do this. So I kind of bribe myself, which sounds ridiculous, but like, it's almost like this inner voice saying, you need to sit and do this, and then you can take a break, or you can do your favorite video, or you can, whatever's going to give me pleasure, right? So I do that. But I actually think that a lot of procrastinators, their real issue is not procrastination, it's the result of their perfectionism.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a reward is a good thing. Like I will often do that for myself. Okay, like if you finish this, you can then go outside for a minute or have lunch or whatever it is.
Yes.
I had a boss who said, do the worst first. And someone asked here, sometimes you don't know how long that will take, or how to break it into chunks, but you have deadlines to meet. Do you have any advice for?
Yeah. Well, a lot of times, like what you could do is say, okay, I only have a half an hour, and see how far you go. And then you're like, oh, wow, I'm going to need an hour and a half to finish this, not an hour. So it just gives you a more sense of control, I think. I also think that if, I would never want to keep track of my billable time. I don't think that's a great way most lawyers hate doing that. But if you track a new project and just see how long it takes, it's going to give you a much better estimate going forward. But along with that, I really encourage all of us to get rid of any little voice that says I should be doing it all by myself. There are often precedents, things on our own files, other people who can be so helpful. So use your resources. It's not cheating, it's being smart and efficient.
Okay, got it. We have a couple people asking about the parking lot idea. And can you maybe you could go into it a little bit more?
Yeah. So the parking lot idea is just more that I know it happens to me every time. Even when I sit down in the morning to do some writing, which is when I usually do my writing, and I'll be like, oh, I got this idea and I'm writing. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait, I never heard back from what happened to that candidate, or, we never heard back from that firm. All of a sudden my brain, I think it's actually because you're trying to focus, your brain starts generating all these things. So I literally, seriously, guys, I take out my phone and I open up the notes section. And if you could, just the notes section, I'll write, before I even start, I'll have it sitting there and I'll just jot down. So I'll be like, make reservation for Saturday night, check on candidate, but I won't stop to engage in it or give it that much more thought than just literally writing it down so that I can finish what I'm doing. The truth is that almost none of us can actually focus completely on an in-depth project for more than, they say 50 minutes. I think that's decreased over the pandemic. If you get 30 minutes of real focus time, it could be 4 times during the course of the day, you're doing well. So jotting it down so that you can return to it, that it's otherwise we're like, wait, I don't want to forget that. Am I going to forget that? And that's taking an energy away from you being to be focused and present with what we do. If we're spending only 50% of our time in the present, that's not enough for us to be able to contribute and to be engaged in the way that I think we all want to be.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think we get, so okay, so you're saying like just write it down, and then, because my other thing is I forget things. So another person's question here is, are there certain planners or tools or organizers you recommend? And so I'll say that like the notes section of my phone is very helpful to me. That's what I use, but I'm sure that this person's looking for something more tech savvy than that. So
you know what? The reason I don't want to recommend any one thing is because this is where I think personal style and how our brains are wired really manifest themselves. Like if I told you that I do almost every single thing on my phone, like I have, it's crazy. I have over 2,000 notes, 2,714 notes in my phone. That's where I keep all my lists. If I interview a candidate, I will actually write all my notes in here. So for me, because it's always with me, I read, if I go to a course, I take my key takeaways there, I look back at it. So I can completely function on a phone. My daughter, who is the most organized person I've ever met, already ordered her, she's going to her senior year of college. Her planner has colors, it has stickies. She wants to write. She's not going to put anything in a phone. So just think about your own style and make it easy to use, right? Easy to use for you. So that's what I recommend. That's a great question. And ask other people what they do and see if any of them sound like they might work for you. Other questions, Stephanie?
Yeah, I mean, like, right. So one size doesn't fit all when it comes to this stuff. Do you think that you've gotten better or worse at organizing yourself? And has it changed at all working from home?
Well, I think that I use a lot of the same things, including a notebook. I've always used a notebook. Just have a notebook so if I need to write stuff down. So it's just like a little tiny spiral notebook. I'll tell you where I've struggled. I like having people around me to help me with some of the technology things, right? So that's been hard, and I remember the first time I did a Zoom training, I've done 800 training programs, but they were all in person. And it was hard to learn how to do Zoom training. So I remember my son was still home from school. He goes to USC now, and he was there to help me set up Zoom training. So what I'm saying is, like, I've been able to borrow people to help me, but I miss some of the, especially on the technology end of it, right? So I would say that's been more of a struggle. But I also tend to be in the same place. When I was in the office, I traveled 30 days a year. So I needed portable things too, even then, right? So I don't know if it's changed a lot, but I would just definitely say the technology piece of it has been a little bit harder, and I'm probably not maximizing my technology as well as I used to when I was in the office.
Yeah, I would say that I am too. And any advice for people who are, I don't know, maybe working harder than they were before?
Yeah. Yes, I do have some advice. And I remember I did a bunch of surveys when I was doing a lot of well-being programs last summer. This summer, I ended up doing a lot of training programs for summer associates on how to thrive remotely. And I used a lot of the concepts in the books, and many of the firms bought the book for their summer associates. But take breaks. Like, we used to have natural breaks where we walk out of the office, run into somebody, go downstairs, get a cup of coffee. I think that we need, like, what I do now is I'll start working in the morning, and then I'll walk the dog right before 9:30 for 15 minutes. And then I'll take another break around 10:30, 11, and then take another break in the mid-afternoon. Please take breaks. And even the partners have said, like, you have to take breaks, because I mean, even physically sitting in the same space. I mean, it hurts. I don't know how else to say it. So I'll pop in, like it's a woman named Melissa Woods. I love her videos. They're like 15, 20-minute stretches and moving my arms so I can get rid of all that tension. So move your body is probably my biggest thing. Move your body and know if you're gone for 15 or 20 minutes, I promise you, unless you're, in the middle of an important Zoom call, it's give yourself permission to take care of yourself.
I love that. Speaking of that, Jean Marie posted here about so she's going to continue to keep a gratitude journal that she used to keep.
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, any thoughts on that? Because I think, like,
Yes.
again, it's just so easy to get bogged down by the day-to-day,
100%. So that's where I think those rituals really come in. So rituals, habits, whatever word you want to use, but like in the morning when I write my intentions, sometimes I have to tell you, sometimes I actually just say them into my phone and I use a microphone. If I don't have time, let's say if I'm twice a week, I try to take an early class. I'd actually go to a live class. Even during COVID, it was outside in the parking lot. So I'm driving about 10 minutes each way to get to this class and nobody's in the car with me. I say all my gratitude out loud. I'm like, I'm so grateful. It's a beautiful sunny day. We're all safe. And I just say it out loud in the car. So expressing gratitude, it really actually just think about it as medicine for the fear. Gratitude and fear cannot coexist. I love that, Jean Marie, getting a gratitude journal. I also got, somebody sent me early on COVID, they're self-mailers. They look like a little envelope that folds over and you could send them to people. So you don't have to worry about an envelope. And I started writing notes to people and actually mailing them. Like, I'm so grateful to have you in my life. I'm so grateful for whatever. And I'm telling you, if anybody gets a note from you saying, thank you so much, I'm so grateful, or I really appreciate, you will make their day. And not only will you make their day, you're going to feel so damn good yourself by putting that energy out there.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing I know I do. I beat myself up constantly for not finishing all of the things that are on my list. I'm so hard on myself. You talked about that little inner critic voice that we hear that beats ourselves up. Do you have any advice on what to do when that voice is, saying, well, you didn't finish everything on your to-do list. Well, you did this.
I have a great idea. It's in the book. It's for the kids, but I think we could all use it. So what I tell them to do is to keep an achievement list. Keep an achievement list. Again, in your phone. An achievement could be like, I had three potential client calls this week. I went to the gym twice this week. We're so good at keeping a list of everything we need to do. I think if you keep an achievement list and even an effort list, which is like a work in progress thing, because if I did all this right, well, then it can't be a bad day. So I didn't get that thing done. That's actually unrealistic, or maybe I couldn't get that done today. And you get more fueled when you see your achievements. And we're all doing so much right every single day, but our brains are really messed up. They only focus on what's not there, right? They're skewed towards that.
It's true. And we beat that negative voice is stronger a lot of times than the positive one, I guess.
It is. So what I say is, like, imagine if your best friend, your significant other, talked to you that way. You've gotten rid of them a long time ago, right? So I will say, I am not interested in what you have to say today, brain. Like, this is not helpful to me. Like, go jump in a river. I'm serious. Like, I'll take that sponge and be like, you know what? Goodbye. It sounds ridiculous, but we have control of that. Our minds are wired for survival. They're always there to warn us about what could potentially go wrong, what is wrong. And right now, there's a lot that's not working so well. And so our brain will automatically go to that and highlight it and exaggerate it. But at the same time, there's a lot that is working, right? So it's on us to be like, I'm going to take control over this. I'm not going to spend all my time in the future worrying about things or rehashing the past. In this moment, for most of us, we're very lucky. We're safe, we're okay, focusing on this, and then articulating the gratitude, it puts you in a different state.
Yeah. And being kind to ourselves is so important. We talk about being kind to other people, and I think we need to be kind to ourselves first and foremost in order to do all those things, like showing gratitude to others. And we've got a couple people here saying, so Trish Lilly says, gratitude notes are so good for the writer and recipient, Trish, I will send you a gratitude note because I am very grateful for you.
Trish
And Valerie Fontaine also, she says she uses gratitude she expresses gratitude when making her bed each morning, trying to get back to that each day. By the way, Valerie, making your bed each morning is something I absolutely do. It's a ritual that helps me clear the day. And also I like to get into a clean, fresh bed every night. I don't know if anyone else does that, but it's something so simple, and it just has always helped me, even when I was working full time in an office. So, okay, oh, sorry, go ahead. We have one more question.
Love the making the bed is one of those, be a ritual to start the day off right, like launch the day right. I just want to throw out one other thing, what you're saying. Sometimes we have to fake it till we make it. Yeah. So what that looks like is that even if you're not feeling so great for some very legitimate reason, if you kind of just go, fine, I'll write a note, or I'll go for a walk. It's amazing. It cycles back. Like fake it and make it doesn't mean you're a fraud. Fake it till you make it means you're putting yourself in a set of conditions to set yourself up for how you want to feel. And that's how I think.
And Trish said she applies the 5-year rule, which is in 5 years, how much will it matter if I do X or Y? And it's absolutely true. So I mentioned this on another webinar. My mentor, Wendy Bernero, former boss, would say to us, did anyone die today? Did anyone die if you don't do X or Y? We're not in the business of saving lives. I mean, if you are here, take it with a grain of salt, but really, do you need to do this today? Are you killing yourself for whatever reason? Is it more important to be with your family? Is it more important to spend more time on X project? And the other thing I want to say is your good is good enough. So many of us belabor things. I don't know if you do, Eva, I do. I write something and then I edit it and then I re-edit it. And then that's also part of my perfectionism circle of, procrastination. Good is good enough. Get it out the door. You can't give 100% to everything. So sometimes we just have to wash our hands and move on to the next thing. Your good is pretty darn good. Remember that, everyone,
Yes, progress over perfection. I saw Jean Marie just asked a question.
Yeah, did you see that? So the question is, how do we draw the line at night and stop working when the laptop is in the next room? I agree with you, Jean Marie. It feels like there's no end to the day, and it's not always the firm, it's us. Yes, and especially working from home. During COVID, when things were shut down, I worked every day till 10 o'clock simply because I had nervous energy also, and there was no commute, and I was just home. So yes, I agree. So Eva, what do we do? How do we separate?
Again, I think that some boundaries are going to help us in terms of, so here's my real concern. We could do that for a month or 2 months or maybe 6 months. We can't do that for 18 months. So what happens is when I start to get resentful, when I kind of feel like I don't want to deal with this, or like that person's annoying me, then I realize I've hit that place where I need to turn that laptop off, or just really put it in another room. I think we could have rituals for closing the day too, saying, okay, I'll check in at 8 o'clock for my last time, and then I check back in 8 o'clock in the morning. And you got to think about who you personally are working with and for. But we're not going to do anybody any favors when we hit a place when we're really completely burnt out. So, I've only taken one real vacation during COVID, and unless it was an urgent thing, I needed to check out, because then I can come back and be even more present and be able to be more helpful and function and contribute at the level I want. So I would leave that. Jimmy, I think you should leave that laptop downstairs. I don't think you should even bring it upstairs to anywhere near your bedroom.
Yeah, and at a certain point, I know that I reached my plateau of productiveness and just thinking, right? Like I'm of no use to anyone after a certain point of the night. I need to unwind. I need to maybe do yoga. I need to just veg, whatever it is.
Your brain needs a break.
Your brain needs a break. I absolutely agree with you. So, okay, so I think we're out of questions. This has been so helpful. If you have more that you want to cover with Eva, you should link in with her, follow her on Instagram, and also the book. I think that we would all benefit from your book. What I love about Eva is that I always feel like we get actionable takeaways. So Eva, maybe you could send to us that chart, how to break up your day and the action planning, and then I could send it to everyone.
Sure, absolutely. Okay. And just email me too if you need anything, guys. I so appreciate it. I know it's a Monday. It's a great way to launch our week. maybe you have a little bit of time this month just because things are sometimes nothing's normal, but take a break. Don't ever feel guilty for taking some time for yourself, because in the end, I promise you, you will be able to contribute even better. And I so love being here today, and I will just reach out. I'll send you some of the handouts, but if anybody else wants something else, let us know. And I hope I get to talk to you all again and have a wonderful summer.
Absolutely did. All right. Someone's asking about the contact information. Yes, I will. Can you put your contact info back on the screen for a second? Can you share your screen again?
No, I'll have to go all the way back to the beginning.
Okay. You know what, guys? I will put it in the email that comes as a follow-up. So you guys will get that. And just remember, right? The next 2 weeks are kind of quiet for our industry. Take advantage of it. Relax a little. I know Chambers deadlines are, for those of you doing them, for whatever reason, they are always right after Labor Day, but try to just get yourself in a good spot over the next couple of weeks. I know it's funny, even when we started the program and I told you I was moving my program to next week, you were like, yeah, I am taking off a few days and I am not going to feel guilty about it. And I need it. And you guys should feel the same. So we don't have to be, I don't know, prisoners of our mobile devices either. I really recommend you unplug just a little bit.
Yeah. So making time for our well-being is not a luxury or a selfish act. It's a must. It really is.
Absolutely a must. So awesome. Eva, we're going to have you back in the fall.
Love being here with all of you.
And if you guys have a topic you want Eva to cover, she's very much jack of all trades, so she can cover lots of different things. Just send me a message, send Eva a message, and we'll have her back. Thank you guys. We have a couple great programs coming up for September that you will all hear about soon. And I hope everyone has a good rest of their summer. Eva, thank you so much. Go back on the beach.
It was wonderful to be here with all of you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys. Take care.